All right, so welcome to another episode of 40 and Fit, where we take a deep dive into the male mind on the verge of a midlife crisis. My name is John Baruch, and welcome to another episode. To my right, we have our co-star, Dave Kalari.
Oh, I'm a star today.
Yeah, star.
I'm just a host. I've been upgraded.
I upgraded you, man. I felt like it's time.
Am I going to have to use my miles for that? Or
No. Listen, I handed it to you on a silver
good, because I don't have any anyway.
That's why I had to hand it to you as a silver platter. I couldn't accept anything as it is. To behind the mic, we got Andrew, Cliff, and we got Nick. They don't have a mic back there, so they can't really say anything. But today's guest is a very special one. He comes such a far, far away distance. I don't know, what is it, like 2 towns away? Yeah. That's cool. He's formerly of, I believe, Valley Chiropractic and Wellness, yes. Right? And in Long Valley, New Jersey. I have absolutely no clue where that is. I'll be honest with you.
That's next to Hidden Valley.
Oh, the ranch dressing. We have today Dr. Mike. Mike, before we move forward, we don't want to butcher your last name. I have no idea how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Can you?
It looks Hyjek.
Oh, so I was right.
Yeah.
You were 100% right. I didn't want to say it and then sound stupid about it. My bad. So
no worries.
That's cool. So we wanted to make sure that we did you right. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it.
How are you doing today?
Very good. Very good.
I know it's a little late. You've been working all day.
That's all right.
Did you come right here from the office?
Yes.
Came right from the office, right? Been working all day.
I saw him 6-something this morning, and then did my workout and go to work, and now here.
Okay,
grand opening, grand closing.
Yeah.
No break today.
Nah.
That's cool.
That's how I like a day like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're gonna go straight into it, right? Because like I told you when I met you the other day, I was gonna dive into it. I was gonna look for a bunch of stuff, and I couldn't find a lot. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
So then there's just a bunch of questions. Like for instance, I saw that you started off at Valley Chiropractic, and now you partnered up at Energy Chiropractic and Wellness, right? With the Dr. Pete. How did that come about?
That's a good story. So he was my mentor. I was anti-chiropractor.
Ooh.
But yeah. Oh, yeah. My mom.
So wait, before we go into there, how did you get into chiropractic then?
Yeah, that's
that's where the whole thing goes?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're gonna go into it.
Let's roll.
So it's got to be like 25 years ago, I guess, around now.
What? It's a quarter of a century.
Yeah, things move. But
before science was invented.
Yeah, right. Before Cheerios. What's up?
So my mom was a patient of Dr. Pete's, and I was dealing with chronic fatigue / fibromyalgia, and I had mono first, so it wasn't like not that there's a known way. It's still really not understood what's going on with that. They got some medications now. I would stay far away from them. But, I went through the medical establishment for about 1.5 years, and I lost a lot of weight. I was into working out at that time. I was like 16, going on 17 when this all kind of transpired. And went to about like 19, trying all these different, testing and procedures done. Nothing like, they looked at me because I had a lot of GI problems. And so they did like an upper GI, lower GI, colonoscopy and all that kind of stuff. And they could see some things changing, but they didn't know what was going on. And I remember like it was yesterday, my physician at the time, they were like, well, we don't understand a lot, but we're going to give you an antidepressant. It seems to help. You make you feel better. I know you're not in your normal state right now. And I said, yeah, I'm a little depressed, but I don't think that's a fix. I'm like, my body's just not working the way I want it to work. And so my mom, over, it's almost 2 years, telling me to go see Dr. Pete. And it's funny enough, like, not that I was an anti-chiropractor, but like I didn't understand it. I didn't believe in it, like most people,
right?
In the beginning, and most people don't. And I said, and I made a foolish joke in the beginning. I was like, the only reason why you go to see him is he's on this body shaping and he's a good-looking guy. I'm like, that's why you're going to see him, So it's funny. I tell this story to patients now, And I wasn't a big believer, and he got me feeling better than I felt in 2 years. And then he referred me at the time in New Jersey. Nutrition wasn't allowed with chiropractic, even though you're taught that.
Really?
The licensure didn't include that at the time. That's changed in like 2010. But so he sent me to a guy in the city, and and I thought this was all strange going to a chiropractor to begin with. And he said, listen, keep an open mind. He's like, this guy's a little eccentric, and he's going to do muscle testing, and it's going to be a weird day for you, but whatever he says, do it. And I said, okay. I said, you're the first guy to help me out in 2 years trying to get some help. I'm like, I feel better than I felt in 2 years. I wasn't good yet, but I was a lot better. And so I went to this guy, Paul, in the city, and he's a nutritionist, and he did muscle testing. And he did like all kinds of foods, supplements, where you hold it against your solar plexus, and he's testing my muscles. And he's got this big, long sheet of paper, and he's got all these supplements I got to take and all these foods I got to stay away from. And I'm like scratching my head, even though I was knowing this wasn't going to be like an experience that I was used to. But I'm like, this is totally out there. I'm like, what do I got to lose? It's been 2 years.
Is this with the crystals too?
With no crystals.
No crystals?
No.
Okay.
He was. So muscle testing is pretty interesting. You're using the body, and you're bringing something next to your solar plexus, and it's not like your muscles go weak like a magician trick or anything like that. It's like your body innately, it's almost like a wireless internet, knows if it likes it or it doesn't like it, and it's about activation of your muscle. And most of the time it's done with like an out leaning arm and just a quick jab of impulse, and to see if you hold it or don't hold it. And I'm a big believer in it. I don't actually practice that because it takes like a lot of training, and I felt that when I was learning about it, I couldn't separate me wanting the result. You know what I mean? Like, is it weak? Because I want it to be weak, because I think this is what it is. It takes a really independent mind to be able to do it. But let me tell you something. After about 2 months of doing some dietary changes, and they were pretty radical, and supplementation, I was back at the gym the first time in 2 years. And then 6 months after that, I won a powerlifting competition that I never powerlifted before. I stumbled in, my life changed in a drastic way. I went to a new gym. This guy, unbeknownst to me, was a powerlifting gym. This guy was the New Jersey State champion.
Which gym was this?
It was Basic Fitness in Halden. And it was a little hole-in-the-wall cop gym, and it was in a church, an old German church, and they had these German meetings downstairs where where they drink beer and sing songs. It was a really weird place. And but I saw all these guys doing this routine off a card, an index card, and I saw them doing lifts I didn't do. I did more like bodybuilding or just weight training, I would say. I wasn't a bodybuilder by all means, but and I got into the powerlifting just to try it, and it was like $20 a week. He wrote you out a card, and he would show you the lift. He took a liking to me in a weird way, because he's very sarcastic, a very like old school kind of Italian guy, where it's like never good enough, oh sure I'll show you, but you got to clean something up over there first, like you had to do something for it, he wasn't just going to give it to you. And it worked for me. My father was an immigrant. We owned restaurants growing up, and hard work was just part of life, and just knowing that it was your part to do was part of it. So I won a powerlifting competition about 6 months after, and I never entered another one. It wasn't something I wanted to keep on doing, but it worked for me, and that's when my life changed. And then that's when I decided I was kind of groomed. My father was in the restaurant business. I grew up in the restaurant business. I was going to school for business at the time, and I decided, I want to be a chiropractor, because it's a business of a type, and I could do something I like to do. Like, I love working out. I love nutrition now. I'm starting to understand how the body responds to it, and it was something that that's when I decided to become a chiropractor. Wow. And so it's a long story. But it wasn't just I hurt my back and I went in. So, like, I understand a lot more by going through different things, especially that time. Another time I blew a disc when I was in my own office, right? And, having to work through it, because you don't have backup at the time. I wasn't practicing with someone else. You have extra funds, but not that much to be sidelined. And then I started learning about things. So it's funny how all my injuries increased my learning, and that's something that, I try to pass on to patients. I say, listen, your body's trying to tell you something right now, let's figure out what you're doing or not doing, and try to augment that besides what we're going to do here chiropractically. Because I'm a big believer you teach people how to fish, not feed them fish.
Right.
You know, so. Okay.
So this is all based on your own private practice that you decided to open on your own.
Yeah.
You
So
went to
so I went to school. I got out of school, and I worked with Dr. Pete for about a year. Kind of, you learn all the techniques, you learn all the things. I'm also a certified conditioning strength and conditioning specialist. I did that when I was going to school to work one-on-one with people. And plus I like doing that. I think it's a good thing to do. And, then I went with Pete for a year and kind of learned how the business was going. I was engaged at the time, and, we had great plans of starting a family and, getting all those things going. And, work for someone's great, but, I also want to prove to myself I could do it, And so I went out on my own, and I had a practice for 15 years, and it was inside of the gym, and then COVID.
Oh, okay.
And then COVID hit. And it wasn't always inside of the gym. It was inside of the gym for the last 3 years. And I migrated about 5 miles, and I thought, my clients were going to follow me, but at 5 miles is a big difference.
Yeah.
It was a big difference, and I lost out a lot. I got a lot of new clients, but, I was in the wrong trajectory from starting a new place, then having COVID hit. It was like all these things, and then sprinkled in there, my mother passed unexpectedly before COVID happened. So I had a lot of big life changes that happened, in pretty tight succession. I was even divorced before that. So it was like bam, 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 hitting all these things. And, life throws you curveballs, and you prepare. I'm a big believer you prepare for it. And I thought I was as prepared as I could, and I found out I wasn't.
Wow. Wow. So that's going to segue to something different that I didn't even have questions for, right? Yeah. So obviously the podcast is called 40 and Fit, and we're taking a deep dive into the male mind on the midlife crisis, right? Yeah. So the whole point was when we started this, and I say this on every podcast apparently, I decided to start this podcast with Dave because we're all in our 40s, right? Yeah. And we were, and I was going through a stressful time where I don't know, I was questioning a lot of things in my life. I was going through some downward spirals, going back and forth with a lot of things in my head where was I going crazy, right? Yeah. That's what I kind of felt. In your opinion, as a doctor, right? Yeah. What's your belief on midlife crisis? Do you feel like you were was that part of your midlife crisis?
Yeah, it was definitely part of it.
And how'd you get out?
I don't think you ever get out. I think you learn how to deal with your stresses that are on your plate, and you learn how to, minimize things that you don't think you're in control of, but you're really in control of, like your lifestyle. I hear people a lot say, oh, well, I can't lose weight because of this, or I can't go to the gym because of this. And you can get up earlier. You can stay later. Not that it's always right either, but with when COVID hit and I'm looking at financial despair and I'm seeing all these things, I started taking my dog on big hikes. Even though the gym was closed, I found a different. I started riding my bike more. I started doing things, outside. I'm like, because at least with all the restrictions, if you're by yourself or just with your animal, they can't say anything. Right. I'm good. And that was something I could do. And, on these long kind of, and my dog, she's 9 now, going on 10, but, she's 7, 8, and you think she's slowing down. She loved it. I mean, it was crazy. And I took her for a lot of stuff before this, but I couldn't believe her endurance and her activity that she could do stuff.
You got more life all of a sudden.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Changed, right?
And so
Fresh
did
air?
I. And so did I.
Right.
And then my mindset started changing a little bit, and you start looking at different things that are available to you. And I really focused on getting better sleep. 2018, I gave up drinking just for the year, just to give it up. I really haven't drank since.
Right.
It was like one of those things. I'm like, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting calories. I'm wasting, my best self forward. And I don't miss it. And people say, oh, was it hard? Did you have problems? I said, no. It wasn't. It was. I actually can't believe how hard it was before to have that and still try to be active aging and still, get results at the gym and all those kinds of things. So, and I don't preach to anybody. I'm like, they're like, so you're against drinking now? It's funny when you give up drinking. It is definitely, I recommend it to people for like at least a month. Like they have that like, I think Joe Rogan does sober October, sober November or something. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I definitely think everyone should do it at least for a month, if not try it for a year, and then you can really see how like. And I was really not a big drinker until maybe in my 30s, like where that was where I got a kind of something where I was looking forward to it on a Friday. You know what I mean? Where I don't like things that I have to do. If I want to do something, I want to do it because I want to do it. Not like, like I can't wait this day's over, or go get a glass of wine. And I was a soft drinker. I was like, wine was. I went to school in California. I never drank wine until I went to California. And I do kind of miss a good Pinot or a good Cabernet or whatever. And I'll have them at a good dinner or something like that. But I think it's been like 6 months since the last time I had it. It's very far and in between.
Yeah, no, like we were just talking before that, having drinks on the table, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't drank in, I would say almost 2 years.
Wow.
Maybe
I'm
once.
drinking 43.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I've had because people drink. I mean, I try to. I'm like, oh, this is so great. I'll have a drink, and then I'll take a drink. I won't finish it. I'm like, I just wasted $10.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a waste of my time. I just don't like the feeling. I'm like, there's no reason for it. My head gets hot, and as a Filipino, like I have that weird protein that like brings all the flight. Then I have like veins popping out of my head.
Yeah.
And I look like I have the map of Africa in my head. It's not fun. And my ears red, my eyes are bloodshot. They're like, "Are you high?" I'm like, "No, man, I'm not even drunk. I just drank."
Just had a little bit.
Right. And then I just look stupid. Right.
Yeah.
I can't breathe. I can't fall asleep. I'm like, this is not a good feeling.
No.
And I also remember vomiting a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
That was not the greatest outcome of
Hey,
anything.
listen, everything has its time and its place, and now refocusing, like when things got hard, I said, I got to get tougher, but I got to enjoy life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that wasn't bringing real enjoyment. It'd bring fun times here and there, but generally speaking, it lowers your energy, lowers your ability to do new things. I was like, it's not really worth it,
Right.
So midlife crisis, I could say I went through. I'm going through it in a way, like, I don't feel, I kind of dedicated myself to certain things that I want to hold true, like my family, making sure, unfortunately I'm divorced, so my family's very limited. It's my birth family and stuff like that, which is great, I don't have any children. I don't have them off the table, but as I get older, I realize that I don't know how much younger I can go.
Right.
With having a wife or something like that.
Right. No, I got them both from the divorce too, and I have the kids with it. So I've seen it all. I've been through that, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy. And then going through our version of a midlife crisis doesn't help.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you start really thinking about yourself and like really questioning why you're here, right?
Yeah.
And that's literally what I was going through, where I wanted to really reach out to someone and say, hey, do you feel the same way? Am I just crazy? What's going on, man? Like, and I think you're going nuts at one point. But COVID really hit, and for me, that's why I saw a big change of just fitness wise. I was able to focus on myself, which was very different. And I think that's where you got to do it also.
Yep.
You had your dog, which is awesome, right?
Yep.
And then you got to ride your bike, and like I said, fresh air. Fresh air is a big difference. And when you didn't have to think about anything, you could go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's huge, where I think I still lack in in sleep part. So when that happened, right? You then closed your practice. Because of that whole thing?
Yep. I ended up closing it because the gym owner, even when they could open back up, he didn't want to open back up. He was a client. He was a client of mine, and he's a big germaphobe. And this shook him. And to be honest, the gym, he didn't need to make money there. It was more like a thing of fun for him. It was something, he owned the real estate that was there. There was a 10 store mall.
Oh, okay.
But he had some other businesses that he was making a lot of money even during COVID. He does like documentation, shredding, but he takes it and digitizes it. It's a big business, and he does really well. And the gym is like, he just has it, and I mean, a couple thousand members, and it's funny. I mean, I know he makes money, but he doesn't have to, and he treats it like that. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to get to a point in my life financially, is where I can do what I do and not have to do it,
Yeah.
To be, and, learn different ways to generate income and bring value for generating that income. That's the big thing I think people lose, is like, well, I want to make money, but like, that's great, but there's got to be an exchange, right?
Yeah.
Value exchange.
I said people have to know you're real. Like, you're
Yeah.
not just about the money. And
Yeah.
I think people have recently been able to see right through that when
Yeah.
it comes to a lot of things. Like, people are like, you just want my money. Like,
Yeah.
because you have to actually follow through it. I know Dave and Andrew talk about this a lot, is the quality, right? You have to actually, the customer service, everything has to be up to par.
Yeah.
And you have to follow through with what you say you're going to do. It's the only way to actually keep those people coming back.
And that's the one thing I really like about landing back with Dr. Pete, is when you have two doctors, we can really focus on that a lot more, because there's certain things that he can do better than me. There's certain things I can do better than him. But the one thing that we always have is the patient's best interest at heart,
Right.
and the service. And he's a big service guy, and that's part of my training when I first came out of school. Why, besides wanting to work with my mentor, but knowing his level of service. I mean, he's been to Disney to learn how to do Disney level of service.
Oh,
No,
yeah. That whole back.
We've
so
been,
Disney holds this seminar, right, where you learn how they run their business from behind the scenes.
Okay.
I've heard about this, and the level of customer service that they go to, the umpteenth way of just bringing out the best, and I'm like, there's a whole thing about it. It's a huge documentary. I saw the documentary of how they just raised the bar tenfold, and if you can live and run your business the way Disney does, you're like the top echelon of businesses, and it's almost like that the Mercedes-Benz version of your business aspect also.
and it really comes down to, servicing the client and making sure, even if you can't help them, you're going to get them to the neurologist, or you're going to get them to the neurosurgeon, or you're going to get them to the PT that they need at this point in time. Whatever it may be, what I like about where we're now partnership together, is that we really have the best interest at heart, and it's not a financial motivation.
Right.
And it's a long term. He's been doing it 35 years. I'm coming up on 20 this year. So it's something that, being seasoned, I was never a high insurance model. He's not a high insurance model. It's a hard thing to sell when it's getting easier now, because insurance doesn't really cover as well as they used to.
Yeah.
But people got to realize, I've realized, when people have skin in the game, they're more motivated. They get better results. And it's quicker, it's faster. It's because you're in it. You know that there's a cost. And I'm a big believer in learning about things. And when you look up, money, it comes back to currency. It comes back to an exchange of basically energy, right? So I want to give you something that can help your body do its job. I never supersede the body. I respect the person's autonomy and their self. Like, we never fix anything. What we do is we put a person in position to fix. It's like the weights downstairs don't make people strong. It's the using of the weights, and then putting the time and effort into nutrition, getting the right knowledge to, I'm a big proponent of using trainers, and not using, but accessing the trainer's mind. You know what I mean? Because you're going to miss a ton of pitfalls that people are going to just run into. And I've run into. You know, and I've learned training and different levels of it. And you know, I still try to use other people's advice because sometimes you know, that expression nose blind, or it's right in front of your face and you can't see it.
You can't see it.
Yeah, you know, so I always go to an outside person that I trust, and that's the main thing, is developing that trust. And we have a high retention because of that, and we don't overutilize people, because that was one of the things I saw in chiropractic from an outside perspective. Was sometimes people were overutilizing their clients, and I like to call them clients, not patients, because a patient comes to you in a time of need, and so we do have patients, but eventually they get to client status where they're using us to or utilizing us to be better,
Right.
to develop the reservoir. You know, because
Not to cure something.
Yeah, no. Well,
Yeah,
it's to get their body to do its job.
the way it's supposed to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to the practice in itself, right? How did you end up going back to Dr. Pete? Like, how did that end up happening? You just closed and said, "Hey, let me call Dr. Pete up." Hey.
Well, no, we would have talks every once in a while.
Oh, so you stayed in touch with him?
Yeah,
the whole
oh
time?
yeah, no,
Okay.
we're good friends. Even when I left a little not prematurely. We both agreed upon it, and I left the right way. You know, like that's the one thing. You're divorced but single, but you're in a relationship, or
Yeah.
okay. But you go online dating, or you do anything on phones now, texting, whatever. The one thing I've noticed is, especially younger than me, my age, yeah, it's still there, which I'm 45, going to be 46. They don't close conversations. Like if they find a reason or something, they just bounce.
They
or
just
ghost
leave, right.
or
They
whatever
ghost
want.
you, yeah.
They want to call it. And I always try
So
to
immature.
I don't know what it is. I think it comes back to bite you. So even if I'm not interested in somebody, I'll have that conversation and say, things aren't matching. I don't feel the energy or whatever it may be, that it's really going on, just to close, the conversation, not leave an open loop.
Yeah.
And but with Dr. Pete, I left that way, and I left on a good term. And I was calling him just to tell him, like, the guy's not opening up. I didn't get I didn't get a PPP loan. Like,
Okay.
I applied a little bit later, because at first I was having a good amount of people coming in and things weren't closed. And I was like, well, this ain't going to be too bad. And yeah, I was wrong on that one. But, I was like,
anyone knew what was going to happen.
this very beginning, and then I didn't get it. And I'm like, I'm going to have to close up. And, I don't know if I'm going to go out of state. I'll take a new license or whatever, because I wasn't liking at the time way New Jersey was really, closing in and locking down.
Yeah.
And other states were too, so it's not just New Jersey. But I was thinking. And I keep all options on the table. That's the one thing, from maybe going through a midlife crisis that I've learned is, when you limit yourself, you really get more nervous.
Mm-hmm.
When you,
totally
when you say
understand
this
that.
is the
Yeah.
only way it can be
Yeah.
done, because this is the way I know, that's when my anxiety goes up.
Yeah.
When I start saying, not like, being in another state's going to solve all my problems, but I'm like, what are the benefits of being over there? What's the cost of me moving there? How much time will it take me? And sometimes that talks you right out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I keep my mind open, and I try to leave it that way. And, all the tough times, we all go through, that's what I will say to myself internally is like, okay, let's look at other options. Like, what's another way to look at this?
So how did you just
I
talk
just
to
called him.
yourself about it, or no? I mean,
Yeah.
besides that, but just getting yourself out of that mindset. How did you actually do that? Did you need like I don't say a therapist, but like
I read.
a friend,
I,
or you,
well,
or you
well,
did it
you know,
yourself on your own?
I didn't use a therapist, but I got no problems with that.
Okay.
When I was going through my divorce, we went through some counseling and couples counseling, and unfortunately it didn't work. But like,
Right.
I see the warrant, and I see it could be successful, and it's just finding that right person to know you enough and have enough history, and that's what Dr. P has. He's got history with me, and he knows me, and but like read a lot of books. I one of the oldie but goodies. It's not like it was a bestseller many years ago. It's Cybernetics by David Maltz. He was a plastic surgeon, and the nutshell of the book is that he used to see transformation in people. Like he would do surgery that was in his mind he'd say, it's a 5 out of 10 on my best. And then he would do another surgery. Oh, that's a 10 out of 10. And it was all plastic surgery. So one guy got a mole removed. He said, I could have done the stitch tighter, but whatever. And the other one, it was crow's feet. And he's like, I knocked that out. And the patient would come back, and one patient would say, the guy that got the mole removed, Doc, my whole life changed. I'm a whole different person. This was holding me back so much. And the other person would come back and say, yeah, you did a good job, but now I need something else. Or nothing was right. And it's really about how you set it up in your mind. And that's what his whole book was about. And I mean, it's like, if you read all the self-help books, they all dance around the topic, but it's really like, how do you put it up in your mind, and how do you set it up, and what's your goal, and what's your target, and it's a great book, and it was rewritten in 2000. But I reread that book. I watched some podcast or YouTube, and went to different things, and I went down the COVID rabbit hole and looked at all the different stuff, and I think some of it's got merit. I don't want to just blow it off, because I see that a lot on podcasts. Like people just because it's not accepted, they blow it off. I think some of it's got merit, but what's that going to do for me right now? Not much. So I got to move on.
Right.
And that's that mindset. There might be some injustices, there might be some things that are hidden or whatever. But how could I utilize that? Am I in a position to utilize that? Can I tell my elected officials? Yeah, I can. I write an email and whatever. Does it do anything? I don't know, but at least I got it off my thing.
Right.
And
at least you did your part.
Yeah,
right?
and move on.
Yeah.
And so instead of getting there and getting caught up and saying, oh, well, this is why the world's coming to the end and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's basically no easy way. Find it. And that's why I try to tell people when they come in with problems that might be longer term. I said, listen, this might be an opportunity for a life change, and because, you got some people like, they got a severe level of stenosis. They've been living this way for 20 plus years, and they got a lot of degeneration, and, we can give them some help, and they don't want to go down, they're not a candidate for surgery. They're just trying to get a little increase in quality of life, but it's affected them. But how can you use this as a positive? Maybe you can, start doing some kind of motivational speaking, or maybe you can do something for your family that you're not doing that can give you value, purpose. Right. We all want purpose, and I think that's what a midlife crisis is. You lose your
purpose,
right?
Yeah,
you
that makes sense.
You lose things stacked up, and they seem insurmountable, and they might be insurmountable. But maybe it's like a real big shake-up for you to get 180'd, right? Like turning a whole new direction. And, I even thought about that with chiropractic.
You thought about leaving it?
Well, not leaving it, but like seeing I got to develop a secondary income. I got to do something that's digital. I got to do something that's online, because if the pandemic happens once, it can happen again. The lockdowns can. And I actually started doing a little crypto stuff, and I talked to Andrew. And I'm not big into it, but I started doing something, and that fear that I had about not having something else was actually kind of quelched, and it's starting to get fed a little bit. And not the fear, but the reason why I had that fear is starting to see some growth in there. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm not going to make my livelihood off of it, but it's something where, we all get those thoughts throughout the day, usually when we're tired, or we look up the clock. We just had a bad experience with somebody, and we're like, how much longer is it? And then that thought comes in, and you're like, oh, wow.
You question it. Yeah. You definitely question it.
Yeah.
Is
So
it worth it? And stuff like that. Yeah. It's very interesting in that aspect. But So then, when you were able to start working with Dr.
Yeah.
Pete, right? You just he just brought you in and said, "Hey, I got
No,
this clinic." And
it was
I
not.
was gonna say, how did
No.
your patients come with you?
Well, I still had a lease, and he didn't want to
Oh,
let.
shoot,
He
that's
still didn't
right.
want to let me out, and now things were. He's like, we're opening back up, so I had to finish out that, and I commuted for about like 8 months, like from Long Valley, which is about an hour 10 from here. And like during the pandemic, it was great. There was no traffic, So it wasn't. I can't say it was bad, and that's where I listened to a lot of this stuff.
Oh.
And that's what I was
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Got an hour to sit and
oh
chill.
yeah, and with Bluetooth and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't watch it, but I would listen to it. I'd have it sitting there playing somewhere, charging my phone at the same time, and just listening to that stuff. So those drives were kind of therapeutic they were therapeutic, thinking about, okay, what's my next life goal? And I think when you have a big life change, at least for myself, the thing that I noticed was, trying to get the whole plan ironed out was probably a big mistake.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I got to do today? What am I going to do this week? What am I going to do this month? And what am I going to do this quarter is about as far ahead than in the beginning. It was like, let's just get through the day. We get a couple good days. Let's get the week, and then I started getting longer and longer. And now I'm into the yearly thing where I'm starting to plan my calendar in a year, like as far as goals.
Right.
And I'm a big goal believer. I think we have to have something that we're shooting for because,
Otherwise, it's just a dream.
yeah. And part of that Cybernetics, that was part of his thing, and it works. And it's funny, I used to be so focused with that book many years ago when I was going to chiropractic school because I wasn't a natural student. I have a decent IQ, and if I put my head down, I can learn things.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like more of a doer and an active person, and so sitting in a classroom learning a whole new subject, things that at the time I had some interest because of working out and stuff and physiology. But that was a big undertaking. And that was one of the books that got me through is like set a goal, set a target. Cause if you don't have a target, there's a 100% chance you're not going to reach it.
Yeah,
You
there's something you're
you have a
going for.
target there. It might be a 1% chance, but at least you got a 1% chance.
Yeah, no, totally
Yeah.
understand that. So when you moved, so basically you ended up having to finish out your lease.
Yep.
And then you decided to just. Did you live here at the
No,
time?
no.
Or you were
I
living over there?
sold my house.
Okay.
I also had a rental property, and we had I converted it. So it was my mother's old house, and after she passed, my sister wanted the moon for it, and I was trying to tell her at the time the market's not there, and I had my financial problems going on. But the one thing I'll never fight over is money, and especially with family. It's not worth it.
Right.
And so I let it play out, even though it wasn't financially conducive for me. But it all worked out in the end because we took a single-family house, we converted it to a two-family. During the pandemic, we got tenants for the majority of it, and then we had the studio still open, and the people that were coming in were really sketchy. And we wanted long term as much as we could. I mean, beggars can't be choosers, but we weren't gonna. It was more about, my mom was the only person in our family, was the only person and my father for a little bit. My parents were divorced, that lived in that house, and this would be the first next family and the family after. So I ended up taking that for now, and I'm waiting for the market to come down and purchase something. I sold my house that I had, and I'm just sitting in not a holding pattern, but just like a timing. That's the one thing I did learn about all this is timing is crucial to a lot of things. Like when I moved my practice, when I came back here, if I could have went and bought a house and fought like everyone is fighting for top dollar,
Yeah.
and, a low interest rate, which is great, or can I catch a sweet spot? You know what I mean? Maybe my life might maybe I meet the woman of my dreams and we want to have kids, and
You
I
have a
need
spot
something.
already.
I need something different. You know what I mean? So I'm playing it more like I'm laid back. People sometimes think I'm aloof, but I'm one of those people. Time, has taught me don't be so aggressive. I was more aggressive when I was younger, and now getting older, I'm more like,
Laid back. Oh yeah. I think we've all proven to do that to ourselves. That like, I'm definitely not the same way. Like I'm not as eager to do those things as well. So within the business, you moved over to practice. Now I was looking at the website, right?
Yeah.
and I noticed. Well, number one, I was watching. Like I feel like I've seen Dr. Pete somewhere before. I don't know where, but he looked very familiar. And I was watching his videos.
He used to come to the gym.
Here?
Yeah,
I've never been here.
he still comes, but he hasn't been here in a while, so I'm busting his chops.
Okay. But yeah, he looks very familiar for some reason. And but I feel I was just wondering, like I was trying to get a hold of what type of chiropractic. Are you guys very similar? Or are you just different? Or do you complement or contrast each other? Like how does that work?
Very similar because I mean he was my chiropractor.
Okay.
You know, so like there's a lot of things that get imparted even without speaking. You know, I'm a big like. It's a very tactile. It is a tactile Spanish.
yeah.
It's by hand. That's what it
touch it,
means. Done by hand in Greek. So when a lot of it was given, and there, I would say there's probably like a 70% like overlap, like where we're very similar, and then there's a 30% difference. So I brought in like more of the myofascial stuff.
Okay.
I brought in laser therapy, some decompression, because like I said, I blew out a disc, and that was the thing that saved my life was decompression. I didn't have a class 4 laser. I wish I would have, because it accelerates the healing process, like markedly so, like almost half, if not less than half time period, which is great. And so, you know, I kind of specialize more in that aspect of it. But, you know, a lot of it, we do have a lot of overlap, but it's something good. And then just the way he's more animated, I'm more technical. You know, like he's
video. I was watching his videos, and I was just like, wow.
He was
talks
on
a lot.
he was on TV for body shaping, like that was an ESPN bodybuilding show. And then before that,
Do you remember that?
I do.
he was on a show with Lee Haney. That was his first show.
Lee Haney.
Yeah.
Wow.
and
Talk about throwback.
And Lee Haney's his great friend. And let me tell you something. We've been to the Arnold's many of times, and he's been more than myself. And he used to be the president of the chiropractic side of that, Dr. Pete, setting up our presentation, because we have like a 3-day thing for continuing eds along with the Arnold's, and then we get front row seats at the shows and all that stuff. But Lee Haney is one of the when you look at it, 8-time Mr. Olympian. You know, it's sad, but most of those guys, after they're done, their 15 minutes of fame's over, their body's used up, they commit suicide, they have horrific health problems. But Lee Haney looks great. He's in amazing shape. He's still actively part of bodybuilding, bringing people up, mostly on the raw, natural side now, which is great, you know. But he's just one of these, and you know, he's very accomplished. He's probably worth a good chunk of change, but every time we have had dinner with him, he's been like just a regular person, you know, and very supportive. So, you know, that's what I like, is like our different approaches. Like he's more the, you know, bring the energy, and I'm more like let's bring the information, because people want to know, and this is the information age now, you know, and how to decipher between, you know, what's real information. And I'll be the first person to tell you, like, this is what I understand. Can I prove it? In that case, maybe not. No, I can't. But this is how I understand it, and this is why I understand it. And, you know, give people freedom, liberty to take their take on it.
Right.
You know? Because if you look at, you know, exercise or nutrition, there's so many different diets out there. They all have their, you know,
The benefits and the pros and
benefits.
cons,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
And each person, it works. Some people it works well. Some people it doesn't work well. You know, and what I see my job now is, like, in, you know, health and nutrition and chiropractic, is trying to find that right for each person. You know, and that's what Dr. Pete has taught me, and that's what he tries to do. And his way of explaining it resonates with some people. My way of explaining it resonates with others.
I can totally see that just from videos and compare
Yeah.
it to just speaking with you.
Yeah.
It's like, Oh, like you said, he's animated. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Like
But you know what? It's genuine.
He seems. You can tell too,
you
yeah.
know, like videos sometimes. Like I remember the first time I saw him, my mom brought the Back Solutions video home, and I'm like, yeah, he's back in his heyday. He's jacked and in great shape and good looking guy. And I'm like, I know why you're going to him. And you're like, don't tell, because my mom was just divorced, newly divorced, and a couple of years
Mom
younger.
has needs too. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. I knew that, and I'm like,
That's just awkward.
But you know, it's funny. Like every time, I've never, except for that initial time, I questioned, is this guy really genuinely that happy and that
right,
animated? And it is. It's true. You know,
He's like that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he has his down times and stuff like that, but like on a day in and day out, we work 6 days a week. I get to see him those 6 days, and he's like that 6 days in and out. I'm more like reserved and like, I get excited sometimes, but most of the time I try to keep it even keel. I like
Okay.
that slow burn progression, just like, it's just building,
Yeah.
And so, but yeah,
That's
so
the way
different
he is.
styles.
It's cool. Going back to also the practice in itself, just to him, because I looked up the website. I was looking through a bunch of stuff. I saw the video that he did where he did that he showed the facility on the video, and I was like, wow, it's a really Zen-like studio, and you have all these services under one roof. So take me through a bunch of the services like that you guys offer. I'm really curious about the sound healing.
Yeah.
So can you?
That's free. That's what's great.
That's free.
That's
Oh,
free.
that's not even,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So if you can dive
So,
deep into that, what's that about?
yeah.
What
So,
does that do?
Energy. So the name of the place, Energy, right?
Yeah.
So energy is a resonating vibration, right? Like, and when you look at it, you can look at it, even electrical energy vibrates. All energy vibrates, and so sound is vibration. And so what he does in the sound healing is uses different instruments. He brings in different players that he's played. He used to have a band, Soul Soothers. There used to be a guy that worked here, Danny or whatever, used to be part of it. And he's no more. He's moved on to different things. But, they play music in a way. It's not written. Just to bring in like a vibrational change in a person. There's sound is a great way of doing it, but people don't realize you vibrate too, and that's one of the big things is like, how do you bring up your energy without like looking at stimulants like caffeine or whatever you want to look at? Like, how do you bring up, like, if you think about something good, people next to you can actually feel it. Like in scientific studies, they've shown like the heart, every time it beats, there's an 8-foot circle that's around us of energy. And we've all experienced it. You walk up next to someone and you're like, that's a good person. I can feel it. I can
Totally
feel
understand
it.
that.
And the more in touch you get with it, the more you empathetic. But the flip side to that is when you get next to someone that their energy's draining or putting away. And, that's one thing that is hard. And I'm not a big, nowhere near as Dr. Pete as far as like getting into this. But like the more that I've worked on it and worked with people, I can definitely feel it. You can feel when someone's hurting. You can feel when something else is causing this. That's the one thing that I've noticed a lot with clients, and is that like they come in, their neck's wrenched up or their low back, and you go through all the history. You have, even maybe you have imaging. You got an X-ray and MRI, and you see some changes, but nothing to really cause this level of pain and dysfunction in a person. And then you find out, I just lost my job. Financial change, regardless positive or negative, and low back correlation is huge. When I was changing my not my career, but where I'm doing my career, my low back was insanely tight, and not until I settled in and I rolled it out. I did the stretches. I did PNF types of stretches. I did plyometrics. I did all my training tricks, but until like I felt settled, did it loosen up? I got adjusted. I did my body work, but like our body can store onto things, and so this sound healing is really about a free energy kind of chasm of some sort that like you're just trying to bring positive energy into people. There's all different sound techniques, and he's the one to talk about it because it's his passion, and he loves doing it. And I love going and experiencing and helping out. I don't really perform anything, but I go there and experience it. And when I leave, I resonate at a higher level. And it's just something that it's a goodwill to provide to the community. And he when people come, they're also allowed to play. And that's the thing that we don't see as adults, and I'm trying to embrace more, is playing. Like not even just an instrument, but just playing in real life.
Right.
You know, we lost that. And if you realize how many lessons you've learned and how many times you've turned a bad mood or a bad experience or a death of a loved one. You know, I remember going to a wake and like as a little kid and going outside with my cousins and going to play war. Yeah. And you know, I just lost my grandfather, but like it turned my whole mood around. You know what I mean? And so we don't play enough as adults, and that's what Dr. Pete definitely brings to the table with the sound healing. It's about play, adult play. And it's using music and it's using vibration and different things.
Is it usually like recommended for certain specific, or is it just like, hey, let's just play music? Or
Yeah,
well,
he'll bring in like I think next time it's a person that plays some kind of guitar, and you know, he'll bring in a different instrument. And these are like what's great about working in this area. You get a lot of people from New York. We got a lot of famous people. Like I can't name names, but come in and
they hear about this situation and they're just like,
oh yeah, I'll come by. You know, and it's not necessarily the case. I'm not trying to get people interested, but it happens, and it's great. And then there's other people that play in, you know, for churches and synagogues of that nature, and you know, they're like journeyman musician. You know,
right.
And they've had success in the past and something. So usually a person like that and him and someone else from the community. And it just becomes something. And you know, like he does a little meditation involved, breathing's super important. And it's just an experience. You know, it's an adult. And kids come and you know, we adjust from womb to tomb. You know, so it's like you're not too young. You're not too young and you're not too old. You know, today I had a lady that was like 94 years old. And you know, it's a different adjustment than a 30, 40-year-old you know, physically fit male will get, you know, but their body needs it just as much as the other person's body needs it. And it's about getting out the interference, you know, like structural distortion, you know, and that's the funny thing is like when you know your flaws, but like when I'm at the gym and I'm sitting riding on the bike or walking on doing something mindless, right? You know, I try not to look around, but what else is there to do? You listen to your music, and you see this person, you're like, oh, yeah, I can see some scoliosis. Oh, they got a drop foot.
Oh, yeah, you
there.
notice those things. I notice when people walk, because I went to school for massage therapy.
Yeah.
I see all the gait patterns, and I'm just like,
I can hear it. You hear one foot, you know.
A drop foot here and there.
Yeah,
I see that.
And just off cadence, you know. And then I got to start looking, and I try to turn that off, but you can't.
No, it's a passion.
And the more that you say no, I'm not going to do it, the more you do it. So it's one of those things. The sound healings, you know, do about every month now that COVID restrictions are going by the wayside, and we'll get to a monthly thing, and then we're going to do some more workshops too about, you know, nutrition, healing. You know, training even, you know, bring in experts from the community. That's the one thing he taught me when I opened up my practice. What I used to do with the gym is bring in the trainer I really respected to give a class about, you know, what's the benefits of using a trainer and what types of trainers are out there. And not so much to give a sales pitch, but like you guys are doing, you know,
just
explain and, you know, I'm a big believer. What you give out, you'll receive back no matter what. You don't have to do some pitch or some sale or whatever. It comes back because people will vibrate with what you're saying and say, I need more of that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think that's why we've come together and we've gone from the smallest, like we didn't even have a camera from first, and now we have this, right? I think
wow.
that we've definitely we have the small office, we're at the desk. Yep. Camera didn't
Yeah,
even
you got
work.
nice tips here.
So now everything is kind of evolved. We're going back to the practice because there's a lot of things
Yeah.
I was really curious about. Is the laser and decompression? That's what you do? Or
Yeah,
is
well,
you the
yeah,
only
yeah.
one that
That's
does it there?
primarily. I mean, he does do it a little bit too as well. You know, and you know what's great is we've, you know, decompression is generally used for a disc problem.
Right.
Right.
Is that's when you elongate the spine?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yep. And it's under this one has what I liked about it because I did a more traditional decompression machine where it had a program, but it didn't have the sense. There wasn't a measurement of some sort. And what this does is it measures durometers of fixation levels. And so as it's pulling, your body should give some resistance, right?
Yeah,
And we're
obviously.
looking for some
Else you tear
resistance
apart,
to come there. But when when you have a disc injury, a lot of times when it's in the beginning, there's a lot of spasm and reactive spasm. And so, like, you should expect a good amount of resistance when someone has a hot disc. But if you start, the machine actually can feel if they start going to spasm, and then it backs off.
Oh,
And then what it does, it adjusts the amount of pull or tension that I'm going to take off the spine, and then I get a graph from that. And then it tells me, like, on the clinical side, did I do too much? Can I get away with more? Where are we at? So, like, the decompression machine definitely brings in a nice technological touch, besides being high touch by our hands, but like something that's sensing and feeling. And actually, I use, like, I got a couple people now that use it more as a wellness or preventative side of things, where we do it once a month to get an increasing elongation in their spine, and then they get an adjustment afterwards, and we get some of the best adjustments we ever had.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
even Dave, one of his clients, I can't name his name, but he uses it that way, and we get like so much more out of it. And Dave can tell you he's a very discerning guy that's very critical. So, like, to get
I love those
past
clients.
past this guy, you got to know it works.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's not going to just do it. And I like that. And I'm highly critical. Even though as I get older, I try to lower certain, like, predetermined criticism. Like, but when I'm going to investigate something to buy, I'm going to be very critical about it.
So the decompression, is this that, I remember hearing about this a long time ago, I trained a chiropractor. Is this that DRX?
It's this
Or is
one.
it a
This
different
one's
version of
this
it?
one's a DOC, Doctors of Decompression or something like that. But they have a DRX was like the big one, the main one, but it didn't have.
Because I used to
this-
train Dr. Russell, something. He was teaching everyone how to use the DRX.
Yeah.
Literally going back 20 years.
Yeah,
And,
and that one was like the one that the name brand recognition, and it's a good machine.
okay.
And I haven't looked at it since I bought this one about 4 or 5 years ago. But they didn't have the sensing technology, and you would have to get, like, this one could do cervical or lumbar, which is a big deal. So you can't do both of them at once. And people ask for that. I'm like, that's the rack, you know. Yeah, but you can't sense because there's sensors in the different parts of the table. So basically, when you're doing the low back, your upper torso is fixed, and the low back piece is walking away from the table.
Got it.
So the sensor is here and the sensor's there, and it's measuring the difference between how much it's actually pulling and how much this is moving.
Okay.
Right? So, and then the cervical one is the converse. It's the upper part of the table has a pull that walks away, and your lower part of your thoracic is fixed. And so, but yeah, no, that helps out tremendously. And when I had my practice in the gym, when I had it there, I utilized it, and I had a lot more hot disc people, and it works great. But, like, seeing this in a more kind of preventative mode, it's working really well too.
Oh, I think that's
and they're getting, like, and I use it now that way. I used it in the other way. And the laser is something that we use, like, day in and day out on, I would say, like, about a third of the people, from gym people
Is it like red laser?
It's 4 different wavelengths.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's a class 4, so, like, Cold laser is a class 3B. And what this, I'm not trying to speak jargon to look like I know more, but basically it's magnitude of power. So a class 4 laser, this one has a pulse feature that allows it not to obliterate the tissue. But if it was on a constant wave, it would be a cutting laser.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And there's 4 different wavelengths, and each one has a different physiological absorption. So like one, the nerves and the spinal cord will absorb. Another one, the muscle will absorb. The ligaments and connective tissue will absorb the other one. And the other one is for blood flow and lymph. And it's pretty amazing because, like, say you got a sprained ankle, I actually have a protocol for that, for edema, swelling, to bring it down. And it's like I can watch an ankle go half its size, just fresh off of, say, a basketball court, come into my office and reduce it half its size and be weight bearing. First, I got to check to make sure nothing's broken. You do the one leg weight bearing test. Even though it hurts like hell, if they can do it, okay, 99%, it's not broken.
Right.
So we don't need an X-ray. Okay, let's do the laser. So you got to use clinical thing, but the physics of the machine will actually let you change things in parameters, and it cooks the recipe for you, and it's great, and it helps out a lot, and it just speeds up the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like Star Trek stuff,
Yeah, no, that's
it really is, and it's got the, in America, unfortunately, we don't utilize the laser as much, and I can go to conspiracy stuff, but really, there's no money to be made, like the clinician makes the money, not the company makes the money that sells it to you, and then the clinician will make the money, right? But like if you got like the way most of our things are as pharmaceuticals, right? So like there's a big machine there that makes a lot more money. And so, but if you go over to Europe, there's over 2,500 cited literature papers, and they use it a lot more. And that's also the system socialized, and I'm not like arguing for that, but that's part of it. They got to get results. The money's less of a factor. And guess what happens? They use it more.
Yeah.
And so we that's a whole nother topic, but it's just something that works really well.
Oh, that's awesome to know that that's actually in the area. I didn't think anyone actually had that. That's pretty good. Then let's go into the Pilates part. Like I was curious as to where how does that fall into the practice?
So that's Lisa, Dr. Pete's wife. And,
okay.
Yeah, and she. I'll give you a personal experience. So 17.
Does Dr. Pete know about this one?
Yeah, he does. I tell this story. So actually, joking about that, Lisa used to be Dr. Pete's massage therapist. So you got something in common there.
There you go.
And when I was first his patient, she was my massage therapist. So, but that's where that story ends.
I was about to say, this is going in a weird direction right now.
No. Hey, totally above board.
We can cut this out.
Yeah, no. So
40 and fit after dark.
but being a massage
special
therapist,
website
she
for that
wanted
one.
to work more one-on-one with people, and this is before they were married and they were dating, and she wanted to do some kind of training, and then she got certified in Romano Pilates, who was the actual, like Pilates is an interesting thing. He never wrote a manual. He just did it. And he was actually for World War I. That's where, before that, he had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and he couldn't be cured. This is the early 1900s. And so he designed an exercise routine that worked for him, calisthenic-based. And then World War I breaks out in Germany, because that's where he grew up, and he designed all those Pilates-type machines to go on hospital beds. That's why it looks like...
Oh, it looks like the hospital
Yeah.
bed. The
It
Cadillac.
looks ancient.
The Cadillac was
Yeah.
exactly like that. Yeah, that's right.
But Lisa really got into this a long time ago, and I remember when she used to have a studio on DeGraw, and I was working with Pete, and she's like, you should go through a boot camp, and I was in really good shape then, and I'm like, this would be easy. I'm like, I'm gonna go through it. I do core, I do this. I got on this stuff, and I learned really quick that my core was nowhere near in the shape I thought it was. I had some functional core training, but I didn't have Pilates core training.
No.
And so it's one of those things. I hear people, because it's at the back end of our studio, so like 2/3 of it's like it's about half and half chiropractic, half Pilates. and we got this drape curtain, silence curtain that separates us. But I'll hear going through this, and if you didn't know what was going on back there, you're like, what is going on back there? And I was just thinking about this. So like when you're training, like when you do planks or you do really good core training, the thing that happens is you're taking endorphins out of it, and that's what makes it so hard. And Pilates is like endorphinless training. And that's what's really hard about it, because it's a strict discipline. It's very cerebral. And you never get worked up, like where if you're doing a deadlift or you're doing a power clean, you got all your hormones going and you're ripping through it, and you got to have proper technique and you got to do it really, spot on. But that's why you don't feel it. Because you got all this extra jazz, you got your music going, and but Pilates
No
is
one's
like
popping an ammonia capsule.
no, you're not.
Some good stuff right there.
And you're not getting your endorphins going, and that's what makes Pilates really hard. Because I can do some of the stuff, but not in the Pilates studio like in the gym, because I'm mixing it up. I'm supersetting it in between something. I got my endorphins flowing. And I can pull off that 2-minute plank, but like when you're doing like a full stretched out and you're hearing a cadence of 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're not getting that full workup. And people do sweat during it, but you don't see the same kind of profuse sweating because you're not really bringing in the physiology and the endorphins part. And that's what makes Pilates so, besides being tough, but what I think mentally makes it even tougher. And I would argue that that's an important way to train,
Right.
Because I think about circling back to the midlife crisis is when you're staring into the abyss and you're giving up on yourself, right? You got to lean in. That's your only choice.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, there's some other choices that might be on the table, but for other people, but not for me, because the other choices don't look good, So you got to lean in, and I think Pilates teaches the biggest, strongest, best muscle we have. It's the brain, And it takes out that physiology pump, the endorphin pump, the hormonal aspect. I'm sure it's in there because I only did a boot camp, but I didn't get that when I was doing it. And maybe I'm just rationalizing it to say I'm stronger. I'm stronger, and I could do it if I wanted to. But so that's part of our Pilates.
No, that's awesome. I see the way that it does correlate with the chiropractic and overall wellness. Now, let me ask you this though: it seems like you offer so many different services, right? Because I also saw that you guys do training as well on the whole thing.
You used to like the training. That's all Pilates.
Okay,
and
she
does one-on-one and group session. Yeah, it's all Pilates.
Okay, so but even at that, right? There's this immense amount of services under one roof. How do you get them all to be conducive or one big program? Because I feel like some people would either just go there just for Pilates or just chiropractic, or even like I don't know about the sound, the vibration thing. I'm like, dude, does someone just come there just for that? Or like it seems like how do you package that into one big program? Because I feel like
well, we never have. We never tried to make it one big program. Some people do it like that. Some people do.
Do you think it should be done that way, though?
No, I don't.
No?
I think because I want somebody to be wanting to do the separate entities, and then we can make something happen when that comes to fruition. Because I think, that's the one thing I got turned down by, some kinds of chiropractic, some kinds of training. Even you got to buy the whole thing, right? You got to go all in. And I'm not just talking money, but I'm saying like you got to do everything. Like we got nutrition there too, and and I never coined this, but Bill Esteb did, creating a safe place to fail. Making places where you're just letting access to happen and let it flow naturally. And if the person needs Pilates and chiropractic, they get Pilates and chiropractic. If they need laser and decompression, they get laser and decompression. They need laser and Pilates, they get laser and Pilates.
Right. Whatever combo they need, right?
Yeah. What's needed, we're gonna get, and we're not gonna sell anybody. You know, we have package pricing and all different things, but we never sell anybody, you know, because I don't believe in it. And Pete doesn't either, and Lisa doesn't either. And that's what's very unique is we're not pushy, you know?
Yeah.
And when you believe in something and you got a good level of service and you're just ready to, when it happens, it happens. And it happens more often than not, and it grows really well.
Do you feel like there's something that the facility could use, like another thing? Do you think you're missing something that you should
we always have things on the horizon, you know, and we're always looking, and I'm a big believer in, you know, you got to keep an open mind and look for new things, and, you know, maybe leaning more into nutritional things. And, you know, I had a lot, we don't offer it, but like I use this company called Viome, and they do a blood and stool analysis, and I got nothing but great things. And I signed up to be a practitioner, like where I could, you know, consult people, but you know, and we threw that around for a little while. Maybe we'll do it, but we got enough things on our plate. You know, I'd rather be good at a couple things than, you know,
mediocre
on a whole bunch.
Yeah,
you know,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know, you don't want to add too many chefs in the kitchen either.
Oh yeah. You just don't want to be, you know, part time on everything else, just full time and understanding everything.
Yeah.
From that point forward. Before we move forward, if it wasn't about chiropractic, what would you be doing if you didn't do chiropractic?
I'd be in some kind of car racing.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I love speed.
Funding the chiropractors.
Yeah.
After a bad race.
Because those guys just turn left the whole time, so they're kind
well,
of.
no, I would be in some kind of racing of some sort, but you know, like Indy, it goes through every. I mean, you want to talk about an athlete? Even NASCAR, right? They hold their heart rate at like 130 to 140 the whole time. You know, like they have some cardio, and they're actually training now for that stuff. You know,
I used to train a NASCAR driver, I want to say 16 years ago. His name was John Denning. His name is John Denning. He's not dead. He was 21 years old, and his parents sponsored him. And I remember they drove down to Virginia every weekend for a race. I did an assessment. He took his shirt off. His body was like this. Just because he goes, all I do is turn left.
Yeah, NASCAR.
I'm like, you're doing 300-400 laps.
Yeah.
And you're in this car that's non-power steering, right?
Yeah.
He's like sweating. I was like, you sit in that car for like 4 hours? He's like, 4 hours, man. I'm like,
G-forces, baby.
it's
high.
insane. And his whole side, one side was cut and lean, and the other side was not.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what do you do in the car all the time? He's just like, man, you end up peeing yourself.
Yeah.
You just sit there and I'm like,
That's my Saturday night.
Right.
Yeah.
See, you could just do it on a Saturday. You don't have to do that all weekend, right? And you got paid for it, though. That's the difference. But that's interesting. Like, really, you like speed. Like,
ever since I was a little kid, I was always into
need for speed,
going fast. Yeah,
pole position.
Pole position. Yeah,
that one.
But he drives a sensible Volvo though.
Do you?
No, I'm kidding.
I was about to say, I was like,
I don't drive anything fast. I got a little Infiniti Q50. I love it, and it's fast enough. But listen, I've already had my run-ins. The racetrack isn't on the road. You know?
Totally. Listen, we got the movies, Fast and Furious. We're good.
Yeah.
That's good. We're good to go. We're going back to the business in itself. Like moving forward, what do you see happening more with the business? Are you guys going to expand? Are you looking to expand, doing something for yourself also again, or are you just happy?
Definitely expansion, but we implemented some. Patient communication technologies. We're, getting to the digital age. That's one of my bringing into the office is like trying to get everything as streamlined as we can, making less excuses for lack of communication,
More of the educational level, or is it just...
Educational is hard because there's so many resources people have. I mean, and most
Google's
of
incredible.
Most of them aren't that great. I try to teach. I try to teach people. You got to look who's providing that information and what's their intent and what's their money angle on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but more for making an appointment. We have walk-in policies, but we definitely would like to be able to text your appointment, and we have the technology to get there, but integrating with our EMR software, and we're moving towards it. Now we text reminders without over texting. We want to be respectful. It's that Disney level of service.
Right.
You want to have a way for somebody, or paperwork now finally gets to people. They don't have to print it out. They can do it on their phone. It comes into the office. Little things that doesn't matter to you, but matters to us, because all those things take hours and man hours of people to do. And if we can cut that down and we can be more in face and in person with that person, it's great, and instead of sitting there, you come in, you sit down for 10 minutes filling something out. And what I like is I got questions lined up when somebody comes in now.
Right.
Instead of saying, oh, you download the
whole
thing,
thing
you printed it out,
Yeah.
you come in. Now I got it. It's in our database, like sitting there. It's not actually in. It's on the outside, because that's not technically legal, but it's sitting on, it's sitting on the outside of the database. I'm looking at it. I got all the questions I need. It's all HIPAA compliant, and then I can do an exam based off of that
Just to
intake.
help the questionnaire and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? So this is just popped into my head. Just like personal training, we're able to do online training like via Zoom and stuff like that. Is there a way that you could do like chiropractic work via Zoom? Or you have to be tactile with the person?
Well, so like you have like you definitely
adjust someone from Zoom,
no,
can you?
no, but we do the consultation.
Okay.
Like we can
Beforehand and stuff like that.
we can do that, and that's actually a big time saver for everybody, and so like because like you got your intake paperwork. I start building questions from that. Then you have your consultation, and things turn sideways a lot, just like when this mic goes on, right?
Right.
You have questions written down, and maybe I went in certain direction. Well, that's every new
Turn left the whole time.
every new
Pivot.
patient. Every new patient has something that goes sideways, and you gotta figure out where you're gonna go with it, and so you could do that consultation online, and you can actually look at like the Pilates part. She does a lot of Zoom now. And she's got people all over the world doing like at home, like her classes, which is great. So that side is online, but definitely the chiropractic, not so much there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you plan on do you think you're gonna stick with them, or you're gonna open up your own again, same practice, or like maybe just branch off?
No.
You're good right now?
We got a great team, teamwork to make the dream work, and I'm a big believer in it, and all three of us have our strengths and weaknesses, and we try to, I try to fortify, whatever deficits I see, and whatever deficits are on my side, he fortifies, and we all work together, and it definitely has a synergy, I think like this, I'm big into the microbiome and stuff, and looking at, like you tell people nutrition, but we got like over 7 pounds of living bacteria in us, and sometimes it's not living, which is the bad problem, and it's synergistically or dysbiotically not working with us.
That's a big word, dysbiotic.
Yeah. So it's either in synergy or it's not,
Right.
or somewhere in between, right? And so and it does factors to absorb nutrients, and my argument is before you start giving someone nutrition, you got to know what's going on in their gut, and so if we're going to do more stuff, it's going to be more on the nutritional side of
That's
things. Yeah, and that gives me an opportunity having somebody else to work with, because an adjustment doesn't seem like it's that hard, and it's not that hard. But it's time consuming when you got people lined up, and then you got the paperwork, and you got all these things. And when somebody comes in, they want a laser. There's lots of plates to spin, and we're trying to narrow who needs to spin these plates and get really good at it. And that working together allows us to do more things. And just like our bacteria in our body, if you have it in the right balance, and this is an emergent science, it's not proven. It's not like the science that I keep on hearing on the news. It's an emerging science. It's a living science. It's moving. Things change, and That's what I see are the practice too. We're gonna get
That's gonna
we're gonna get
come in. That's
better.
gonna be a big part of it.
We're gonna have more services, not more in quantity but quality.
That's awesome. I think that I think that is emerging things. It's
Yeah.
an emerging situation. I'm really, not that I'm like all about the vibration, but I think that mind body is the way that the health industry has to go at this point. I think everyone's going a little nuts, and they're not focusing on themselves, right? I think that there's a lot of, no one's doing as much self health as they should be.
Yeah.
We speak about this on every podcast, and you got to really pay attention to yourself. So kudos to you in bringing that all together. I do have to say that that's pretty amazing that you have a facility that does all that. And you have two different types of personalities. Like one guy that's pretty extreme and kind of brings the table, and you like just level him back down. And be like, all right, cool, man. Like you be the energy, and I'll be the practical at this. But he's cool. I just thought he's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and you got to realize that like there's no wrong. Well, I guess maybe there might be, but there's no wrong vibration per se. But it'll resonate with certain people, and other things won't resonate.
Right.
And then sometimes there's a synergy between the two of us where it changes my, kind of look on this take, and I say something I normally wouldn't say, not because it's out of line, just because I didn't think that way,
Yeah.
And so we get this balance. So there's definitely a synergy, and synergy is important, and a catalyst is. Like that's what we have. We have a good catalyst there, and things are ready to change and get better. And it's great. Sometimes when you're in practice, you don't have like a cookbook or there's algorithms out there to kind of figure in diagnosis. And we have diagnoses and we know what they are, but people don't fit diagnoses.
Right.
People are people. It's like, what's the best exercise? There is no such thing. What's the best exercise for you? Maybe I can tell you that. Maybe I can't, because maybe you improve and there's a new best exercise, But that's what we have, is that willingness, that openness, the experience, and checking egos at the door as much as we can, and just trying to get the person's best being at heart.
No, that sounds great. I'm very impressed by everything. Do you have?
No, I
you
was
want to throw something
full
about nutrition?
absorption mode.
Yeah, I was like, you threw a wealth of knowledge, and I was like, wow, this is a pretty cool facility that I definitely want to check out. I'm really interested in this vibration thing. I'm like, I feel like it's like the metaverse, like a whole another world that we're gonna go through. I'm like, can I vibrate through the world like Flash? It's pretty cool. Did you have anything back there? Guys have any questions? I feel like he threw a lot that I'm still taking in, but
Yeah, what do you think the most challenging thing is when it comes to selling a service like laser and compression? Because being a patient of that, it was unbelievable. I really appreciated when you introduced me to it, but I could also see how it's challenging. So I'm curious what you face.
With the laser, one of the big thing I think I try to do is I always give a complimentary experience. I want people to feel it, I want them to know the difference. Like just over the weekend, I had like a rib head go out, I got adjusted, and it just wasn't right. And Pete left, and we had two chiropractors worked on me on Saturday because we got a new table. It's a vintage table. It's not new. It's actually old, but it's a high-low table for some older people. It's got drop pieces, which allows us to do a different type of adjustment, which is nice. And in certain scenarios, it's a great table. It is a great table. But we got that, so we had the one chiropractor coming over because it was his old table, and I wanted to make sure it was dialed in because there's certain settings that you have to have, like for the drop piece to go down, and he was giving us some tips. This is what I love about chiropractors. Most chiropractors, like 99% of chiropractors I've met are salty earth people, and they'll like, this guy didn't sell us the table. We actually bought it from somebody he sold it to that's retiring. And so it was his old table. And he came over and gave me a tutorial to how to show it, and
he cares.
And they give you little tips, like, and that's the one thing I learned from Dr. Pete when I went to school, because I went to school out in California. Then there's a lot of big chiropractors out there, and I went and met everyone Like I'd go to seminars, I would find them at their office, and I would shake their hand. They would usually let me shadow them, and then at the end of it, I'd say, if you can give me one thing that you learned that I probably didn't learn in school, something that you can impart on me. It doesn't have to be an adjustment. It could be dealing with the client, patient. Just give me something. Even if it's a life lesson. And I always ask that question, and they always gave me an answer. And it was never the same answer. Back to the laser. I want people to have the experience, and pricing. Like I think I had one person we were working on a Dupuytren's contraction, which I have had positive results with, right? And I do like a fascial release where I use this tool and we open up, because usually it's a ligament contracture. And sometimes there's a genetic component to it where it's a really thick cord. And this guy didn't have the thick cord. And I've worked on the thick cord and had positive results with the laser where it released, because their finger will be like this. Like they'll call it trigger finger.
Yeah, I had it. I had surgery for it.
Yeah.
I actually took the surgery. I had carpal tunnel also.
Yeah, so and the laser works well on both of those.
I wish I had just tried the laser
Yeah,
first.
but sometimes the surgery's needed, and so
like there wasn't even an option. That's what kind of bothered me.
So like I worked with other patients in the past on this and had positive results, and I'm working with this person and we're not getting results. So I just refunded him his money. I said, here you go. Like, it's not working. Like you gave me the 6 times, and I just said, here, it's back to you. And he used it as adjustment allocation. So like I didn't physically give him the money, but he's like, I don't want to stop coming here. Just put in my adjustment thing. But we just did that because I don't want to take something that, like, remember I said it's got to be a fair exchange. If I'm imparting something, I want a result for it. I can't guarantee results because we're all independent humans. But like, I had good confidence that this would respond. Right. And so, I think the best way is time. We never pushed anything on anybody, and we let them have exposure to other people getting the laser, saying, wow, that worked, and this and that. And usually that's when somebody has something nagging that's been bothering them. We told them about laser once, maybe twice, and then they come back and say, it comes back to full circle, safe place to fail. I'm not going to push anything. We're not, we're going to make money no matter what, because we're going to do right by people. And sometimes, if anything, what I've learned is I got to be a little bit more pushy, because sometimes it's not to sell somebody, but it's just to give them that little bit of nudge to say, I can do it, or they have my confidence, of some. I'm a very confident person, not like in a cocky way, but like I've tried so many things that I failed at, that whatever works, it came trial by fire. Like I've used lots of different things and made lots of mistakes before I believe in something. So yeah, it's a interesting dynamic, and generally it's not being pushy, explaining it to them as best as we can. Some of the other things we need to work on website-wise is doing videos, showing it in action, getting a testimonial. Not because we just want people to talk about it, but like you see people's eyes light up. Like the one person with the laser, it was a 72-year-old lady that's playing tennis and bocce ball or something. And she's got like a crazy schedule, golf. And she's got a crazy schedule. She's like, she's a widow, and she took these things on to fill her time. And she's really competitive. And she had an Achilles that was going out on her. And, she got the MRI. There was like a really minute tear, and they did the PT, and it wasn't getting better. And we can adjust the talus and get the foot in a better position, and we did that. And, and I told her about the laser the whole time, and she's like, financially, it's a little bit much. I said, well, listen, if you change your mind, we're always here. And we did it, and it was one of the best success stories, and her eyes light up when she talks about it, and that's why I want to get on video, because me talking about it's one thing. I got a financial interest.
Testimonial,
I got a financial interest. It's worked for me, and I forgot to finish my story before about the table. I had a rib head out, and I got 2 adjustments, and it still was bothering me. I tried to come in the gym, roll it out. I did 4 minutes and 30 seconds because that was the protocol for the laser, And like within like 2 hours, it went from like I'm like going like this, and I'm going like this, and I really couldn't turn to the left, and I got adjusted, and it felt a lot better, but it was just not there. It was like I'm like this, and like literally that's like 2 days ago. And rib heads are one of the, you learn certain things. They're very finicky, and like you can get them adjusted, and the muscles still, for whatever reason, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. It just spasms. But yeah, so
Wow.
But that's what we try to do.
That was awesome.
Right.
Good stuff. Good reasoning. We got anything else back there? We're good to go. Well, listen, Dr. Mike. We close out. Before we do close out, I'd like to let everyone know, like, if you could tell us how we can get in touch with you, where your practice is, website, stuff like that.
Yep.
Let everyone
So,
know.
Much appreciated. We're on 764 Palisades Ave, right across the street from the post office in Teaneck. Our website doesn't have my name in it. It's drpete.com, but it works. It's actually really good that way. And our phone number is 201-836-9558.
Dr. Pete, I saw it on the Energy Chiropractic.
Pilates.
Pilates,
But the
yeah.
shortcut's drpete.com.
Is it DR Pete? Or
Yeah, DRPETE.
Oh, I didn't even see that one at all.
Yeah, that's the shortcut one. And I'm going to have to get my Dr. Mike shortcut one.
Do you own it yet? 'Cause
Yeah,
it
yeah.
probably costs a lot of money.
It's funny, but, like, my ego, I like, especially with Dr. Pete, I don't have any. Like, we're there. And it's funny, like, people say, oh, you should get more web presence. I said, listen, what works, and it works. That's what's the most important thing to me. And, but yeah, the Energy Chiropractic, the Pilates is the other long, you got
That is a long one, yeah.
You
Yeah,
got
by
to
a
shorten,
vowel.
you got to shorten it up. But it brings you to the same landing page.
Yeah, I saw it at the
yeah.
top. It said Dr. Pete, and I
Yeah.
was like, but the website
Yeah.
still says whatever
So-
going on is. All right, so that's where we can find you, right?
Yes.
And, do you have like an Instagram or anything that we can follow?
No,
social media?
no. Listen, that's one thing I'm glad I never got into. I would probably waste so much time on there. I'd be so mad at things that I got no control over. So I am so.
So you stay off it?
Yeah, Dr. Pete's got it all.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the elder, and he's all in it.
What about we could find you on the floor most days?
Yeah.
Like 6, 7 o'clock.
Yep, 6, 7 o'clock downstairs. I'm working out 6
So we
days
just come
a
to
week.
the gym.
Yep, yeah.
6, 7 o'clock in
Hey,
the morning.
listen,
look for Dr. Mike.
Yep, I live in reality.
Set up a point right
Not
there.
the metaverse. Maybe one day I'll have to, but right now, as long as reality still existed, I'm gonna live in it. Physical
Awesome.
reality.
That's so cool. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. We
I
truly
appreciate
appreciate
it.
all that knowledge. It was incredible. I actually look forward to actually checking you guys out again. I think that you guys just from the website
And
alone,
you
just the
and we
website.
and we have people come in just to check out the place.
Yeah.
It's great. We don't have any expectations. Just want to see what it looks like. See people getting adjusted. We got a semi-open environment, which is nice. It's got privacy when we need it, but we can open it up more when we're trying if people want it. And we have families that come in. They sit around, watch it adjust. They tease about who's got the loudest crack and all that kind of stuff. It's great. You get a gong if you really get a good energy release adjustment. We got bells. It's great. We have fun with it.
It looks like a great facility. So, with that being said, again, thank you for being on, and we are good to go. So, say goodbye, everyone.
Night.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.